What's up, Met fans? Welcome back, Talkin Mets and Rob. How's everybody doing? Before I get started talking about why the Mets don't want Brian Sabean to run their baseball operations, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy all my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, hit on that subscribe button, everybody. All right, guys. So, again, with the whole issue with the Mets not finding a perfect candidate or an actual candidate who will be willing to accept the position of baseball operations, why don't the Mets want Brian Sabean? I don't know. There's so many reasons why, and I'm going to get to a couple of key points why the Mets are not even putting Sabean on their radar. I think there's a few reasons for that. We'll get into that in a little bit. But before we get to the reasons why the Mets probably don't want Brian Sabean, let's look into Brian Sabean and exactly what type of candidate he is. We all know about his accolades, but we're going to get right into every detail and why one is extremely important to look at and why the Mets should be calling Brian Sabean to run baseball operations. So, Brian Sabean, what is he doing right now? Considering that he is basically out of the baseball eye, so to speak, in the Giants organization. As of 2019, he was the Executive Vice President of Strategic Initiatives and Senior Advisor and Evaluator. That is so many different titles, but basically, he is on the back burner of the Giants, doing for the most part, business type of jobs for the Giants organization. He's in that role as of right now, currently looking at all his information. So that's what he is right now. He's basically a senior advisor and an evaluator, which a lot of teams have a lot of advisors. He is one of them. That is one of the things that we know about him right now, what he's doing currently, and why the Giants haven't basically not given permission, because he is basically not part of the top executives that are running the Giants organization, which obviously they're doing a good job of as of right now. So what is the other things we know about Brian Sabean? Well, from 97 until 2008, he was the head of the baseball division. He was technically the GM, but he was more of the big guy. He didn't have the title of the GM, but he was head of baseball division when the Giants technically didn't have a GM, but he was the GM. He was making all the player acquisitions and player moves, but he was the main title was head of baseball division. After the 2008 season, he was finally given the title of the GM, as we know what the Giants have done. What did the Giants do with Sabean running things from 2010, 2012, and 2014? The Giants won the World Series under the watchful eye of Brian Sabean. So we know Brian Sabean is a good executive. He was a head of baseball division with the Giants. He is currently an advisor and evaluator of the San Francisco Giants currently. But what else has he accomplished as the main top executive in the Giants organization? Well, they have 4 NL pennants: 2002, 2010, 2012, and 2014. 3 out of them 4 NL pennants became World Series. That's always a good thing, right? That's what we're looking for. A guy who is experienced, who knows what he's doing, brought actual championships to a team. And other credentials that he brought as a top executive was 3 wild card in 2002, 2014, and 2016. So, 1 year out of the 3, in 2014, they won the World Series. Another reason why the Mets need to have to look after him. But the one thing that I really want to get into, guys, when it comes to Brian Sabean, is exactly this. He was, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but he was part of the Yankees organization. He was the director of scouting for the New York Yankees from 86 to 90. Why is that important? Because the Yankees started to get all their core pieces, the core 4, around that time from 86 to 92, when he was the VP Player Development Scouting as well. So from 86 to 1992 was all the years when the Yankees started to get the guys that been known as the core four, the Posadas, the Jeters, the Pettits, the Bernie Williams, those guys. That is key because not only is Sabean a great general manager, a great president of baseball operations, a great head of baseball division, he knows the right people to put in scouting positions. Not only is he great at scouting players and know what he's doing, he can put people under him that know what they're doing. And that's the big reason why I want Brian Sabean here. But why don't the Mets want Brian Sabean? Why isn't he even a candidate? It just does not make sense. All the credentials he has, we just went through every one of them. It just does not make sense to me. The Giants think so highly of him that they still want to keep him as an environment evaluator just so they have that knowledge from Brian Sabean in the organization. So why don't the Mets want Brian Sabean? And I'm going to tell you why, guys. Is because Sandy Alderson still wants control of baseball decisions. It's that simple. There's a couple other things that I'm going to get into, but when it comes directly to Sandy Alderson wants to be known as a guy and wants to have still control of the organization. And if you know, Brian Sabean is a guy who takes control, who wants to make the decisions. He don't want Sandy Alderson over his head every 2 minutes saying, I don't want you to make that deal. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do that. But that's the reason why. That's the main reason why Sandy Alderson still wants control. And there's not the people who they already interviewed, I'm not including the people who didn't give permission. But Theo Epstein is a guy who likes power, correct? Why wouldn't he want to take the job in the biggest city in the world with the most scrutiny, basically, if you win a World Series with the Mets, it's bigger than the Red Sox. It's bigger than the Cubs. Even though that was great and that was history, it's a big deal doing it in New York. You will be a god in New York. But the Mets still went to Theo Epstein. They still went to Billy Beane. Even when Theo Epstein has almost as great as credentials as Brian Sabean, why would they go to Billy Beane first when they still had to get permission, so to speak? Yet, the Mets would rather get Billy Beane instead of Brian Sabean when Billy Beane has done absolutely nothing. He has no credentials winning the World Series. What have the Oakland A's has won? Nothing. Brian Sabean won. He has pennants. He's been to every aspect of the organization from top to bottom. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, you could say that Billy Beane knows scouting, knows this, knows that, but he's never won nothing. And no matter how much the A's don't have money, sometimes you have to prioritize, at least have one superstar on your team to keep at all costs. And the A's don't do that. Now, is that a Billy Beane thing? Is that an organizational thing? I don't know. But let's be honest, guys. The Mets don't want Brian Sabean because Sandy Alderson still wants control. And another thing, guys. Sandy Alderson's son, Brian Sabean. Bryn Sabean. Whatever you want to call him. The problem is that it's a direct line of interest when it comes to Sandy Alderson. I think, and I truly believe this, guys, that I think Alderson wants his son to have a bigger role in the Mets front office. And I don't know if Bryn wants to be a president of baseball operations, but I have a feeling Sandy Alderson probably wants that, guys. And that's a problem. Now, obviously, Bryn Sabean, he is the head of scouting when it comes to, this pisses me off, guys. Bryn Sabean, he can be good at his job. Bryn Alderson, he can be good at his job, but there's a conflict of interest here. And I think Sandy Alderson is manipulating enough of Cohen when it comes to the interviews, because I think Sandy Alderson wants Bryn to have a bigger role in the front office. And that's a huge problem. So not only do you want Sandy Alderson that wants the power, so when he leaves, somebody else can take control, which can be his son. You have his son who is in the organization because of Sandy Alderson and probably wants a bigger role in the front office. That's a huge conflict of interest, guys, and that's a really big problem. And I don't like that, and that's a huge problem, and that's another reason why we have to get rid of Sandy Alderson is because of this issue, guys. And another thing why BRIAN Sabean would be the best candidate for this baseball operations job is because he will bring Bruce Bochy to the Mets and to manage the Mets. It's basically the link that Billy Beane had with Bob Melvin. If the Mets somehow got Billy Beane, Bob Melvin was going to come with him. It was that simple. BRIAN Sabean will do the same thing. He will bring Bruce Bochy here from the West Coast to the East Coast right away because he knows how valuable Bruce Bochy is in the dugout, guys. That is the latest, and that's what I wanted to get into, why the Mets don't want BRIAN Sabean. Sandy Alderson still wants the power, even though he won't admit it. And BRIAN Alderson, his son, he wants a bigger role in the front office. And there's no denying it, guys. That is a huge conflict of interest. And if Steve Cohen doesn't realize that, Sandy Alderson will bring down this organization even more he already has. And Cohen will not get the big name that he wants to run baseball operations. And it is also hurting the team because the World Series is going to end very, very soon, guys. And that's when things start to roll. That's when qualifying offers start to happen. Free agents start to pick up a little bit. You hear about some trades. You can't have no front office and no manager in place and make baseball decisions because Sandy Alderson still wants the power, guys. That is the biggest problem, and you see that as of right now. So if the Mets don't go after BRIAN Sabean, that's the reason why they're only going after a GM right now, guys. The reason why is because Sandy Alderson wants power, guys. That is the main concern. Don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy all my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, guys, hit on that subscribe button, guys. You know what to do. Let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think? Do you think it's the power Sandy Alderson still wants? Do you think it's about his son? Or do you think it's just a matter of circumstance that people just don't want the job at the moment because of whatever reason you want to think of? Give me those reasons, guys. But I think the main concern is Sandy Alderson still wants power without admitting it. And he wants his son higher up in the front office as a top exec. That is my opinion, guys. Met fans, it's always a pleasure, guys. Don't forget, guys, hit on that subscribe button, hit on that like button, guys. And as always, Met fans, let's go Mets.